Okay, let's dive in. Our mission today, it's really about transforming how we all connect. We're going deep into the science of communication. We've got some fascinating research here, including analysis looking at what makes these super communicators tick. These people, they just seem to build trust with anyone instantly. We're aiming.
The really crucial part is we need to shift how we even define communication. See, most of us, we treat it like sending data. I've got info, I zap it over to you, to done.
Right.
But scientifically speaking, communication is like humanity's superpower. And its goal, it's actually way more subtle. The real goal is to feel connected.
Connected, not just informed.
Yeah. It doesn't land.
Yeah.
Doesn't stick.
And here's something that really jumped out at me. If you actually took a transcript of a fantastic conversation, the one you had yesterday with a good friend, on paper, it would look like chaos.
Oh, totally.
Great conversations are apparently messes. They jump around, they're not linear, packed with inside jokes you wouldn't get, half-finished ideas. So the point isn't necessarily to sound super eloquent or, perfect. It's more about embracing that messy reality.
Which is driven by something else, right?
Right.
Vulnerability.
That's exactly it. And vulnerability, it's a word most people get kind of wrong. They think it means, I don't know, spilling your guts or crying on someone's shoulder. But neuroscience gives us a much more precise definition. It's basically a neural cascade, a chain reaction in your brain. It gets triggered the moment you tell someone something they could judge you for.
Ah, okay. So it's not the deep, dark secret itself. It's the risk, the possibility of judgment. That's the trigger. Precisely. So I share something maybe I'm a bit worried about, or an experience I'm not sure how you'll take, my brain. It immediately goes on high alert, watching your reaction. Now, if you don't judge, if you create that safe space, and even better, if you kind of return the favor, share something back that I could judge you for, then boom, both our brains start pumping out these neurochemicals, oxytocin, things like that. They literally make us feel closer. It's chemical.
Wow.
Boosts trust, makes us way more willing to actually listen to each other. It's not really voluntary.
That's incredible. Okay, so if trust is partly chemical, that leads us to the physical stuff you mentioned. You're saying this connection isn't just a nice idea, it's neurological, like our bodies are actually syncing up.
They absolutely are. It's honestly one of the wildest findings in this whole field. Think about like two tuning forks. You strike one and the other starts vibrating too just by being close. That's kind of what happens between people talking, even in just a reasonably good chat. Yeah. If we were hooked up to monitors right now, we'd see these subtle shifts. Researchers call it neural entrainment. Our breathing patterns start to align. Our heart rates begin to sort of echo each other. Even the way our pupils dilate, they start to sync up.
Pupil dilation. Wow. Okay, so just listening well, paying attention, it physically calms us down together, makes us breathe easier. That sounds efficient.
It is. It's a biological feedback loop. But the real payoff, the big reward for getting into sync like that.
Yeah, what's the point?
Pleasure. Plain and simple. Entrainment triggers a big dopamine release in our brains. You know that great feeling after a really good talk? Where you feel totally understood, connected? That's your brain literally making pleasure chemicals. Connection feels good because biologically it is good. It signals safety, belonging.
Okay, so we're wired for this. We get a dopamine hit from connecting well. Makes sense. But, there's that famous George Bernard Shaw quote. The single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place. If we're built for connection, why do we mess it up so often? Why does it feel like we're just talking past each other sometimes?
That failure, that illusion Shaw talked about, it almost always comes down to one thing. We're having different kinds of conversations at the same time, a mindset mismatch. The big discovery here is that inside any discussion, no matter the topic, there are really three fundamental types of conversation happening, or trying to happen. You might bounce between all three in just 5 minutes, but the key is you and the other person. You got to be in the same mode at the same moment.
Okay, 3 types. What are they? Lay them out for us.
All right, first, you've got practical conversations. Goal here is straightforward. Solve something, make a plan, swap information. The question underneath is, what's this really about? What are we trying to get done? Second, emotional conversations. Here, the goal is totally different. It's empathy, validation, feeling felt. You're not looking for answers. You want someone to get how you feel. The underlying question, how do we feel? And third, social conversations. These are all about us, identity, our relationship, status, how we fit into the world, society. The question here is, who are we in this situation in relation to each other?
Okay, practical, emotional, social. And that structure immediately points to what you call the matching principle. To communicate well, we need to be having the same type of conversation at the same time.
Exactly. And the second you mismatch, the whole thing just tanks. It
Yeah.
feels awkward, frustrating, instantly. Think about a really simple example. You walk into a hardware store. You need a ladder that's purely practical, right? And imagine the employee goes straight into, like, deep emotional validation.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear you, needing a ladder. You are seen. Home projects could be such a burden. You'd be like, whoa, buddy, just aisle 5.
Right. Or the opposite. You're super excited about a movie you just saw. You want to share that feeling, that buzz. It's social, maybe emotional. And your friend just cuts you off, flips into practical mode. Okay, right. Movie. We need to sync calendars. I'm blocking out next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Kills the vibe completely. They miss the feeling.
It's probably the #1 mistake in relationships. You come home, you vent about your terrible boss, you're signaling an emotional need. Just be mad with me. Tell me I'm right to be upset. But your partner jumps straight to practical. Okay, here's what you do. Tomorrow morning, schedule a meeting. Lay out these 3 points. They mean well, but they miss the emotional cue. And now you feel, well, unheard, even more alone.
Okay, but hang on. This sounds tricky in real life. I mean, aren't most important talks a mix? Like, talking about the family budget. That's got practical numbers, sure, but it's loaded with emotion anxiety, maybe. And social stuff, too, like, are we being responsible? How do you know which one to match first when they're all tangled up?
That's a fantastic point, and it really gets to the heart of what makes super communicators so good at this. They get that nuance. Yes, conversations often have layers, but there's usually a dominant layer, or at least a priority. And the rule is pretty clear. If someone's using words that signal emotion, worried, anxious, frustrated, excited, whatever the emotional layer, takes priority. Always. You have to match that feeling first. Build that trust. Get that neural entrainment going. Then once they feel heard, feel validated, then you can gently shift towards the practical side, the solution. Emotion first, then logic. Validate the feeling before you fix the facts.
Got it. Emotion first. Okay, so if this mapping, this matching, is a skill that implies we can learn it, super communicators aren't just born that way. So let's get practical ourselves. What's the first actionable skill we can develop? You mentioned deep questions.
Exactly. Skill #1.
Yeah.
Ask deep questions. The research is really clear on this. Super communicators, they ask way more questions than average folks. Sometimes, like 10 times more. But it's not just volume, it's the type of question. They ask deep questions.
Yeah.
Questions that get at someone's values, their beliefs, their core experiences. They invite the other person to talk about what's going on inside.
Okay, let's make that concrete. Say you meet a doctor. The normal surface question is, oh, which hospital do you work at? Practical. What's the deep version?
The deep version probes the why. Like, what first made you want to go into medicine? Or was there a particular moment or experience that really set you on this path? See how that shifts it. You're not asking about logistics. You're asking about their motivations, their story, their identity. That's hitting the social and maybe emotional layers. It changes the whole feel of the interaction.
It does, but I can see people feeling, I don't know, intimidated, like it's too personal, too fast. You mentioned that wild experiment where engineers had to ask strangers, when was the last time you cried in front of someone? That feels intense.
Oh, for sure. That experiment was designed to push the limits, to show how fast, deep questions can create connection, even under weird circumstances. But for everyday life, the key is understanding the difference between an invitation and a mandate. A deep question should feel like an open door, not a demand for entry. So if someone says they just moved, instead of just, where to, practical, maybe try, oh, wow, what prompted the move? Or what were you looking for in a new place? And critically, you can make it safer by sharing something small about yourself first. That's interesting. I moved here for X reason. What drew you guys up there? You offer a little vulnerability yourself. It's an invitation, not an interrogation.
Right, make it an invitation. Okay, that makes sense. So deep questions open the door. That naturally leads to skill two, proving you're listening. Because if listening is key to connection, it can't just be passive. You can't just, shut up and wait your turn.
Exactly right. It's not enough. If you want that trust, that entrainment, you have to actively show the other person, hey, I'm getting it. I'm with you. Some of this is basic stuff, nodding, leaning in, eye contact, maybe laughing when they laugh. Those physical cues matter. But for trickier conversations, maybe high stakes or high conflict ones, there's a really specific, powerful technique. It's called looping for understanding.
Looping for understanding. Okay, it sounds a bit clinical, maybe a little robotic. Does it risk making things feel less genuine?
It can sound that way when you just describe it, yeah? But when you actually do it, authentically, it's incredibly effective at lowering defenses because it signals pure understanding, not judgment. It breaks down into 3 really clear steps.
Hmm.
Step 1, ask a question, preferably make it a deep one. Step 2, listen carefully to the answer. Then, and this is key, repeat back what you heard them say, but in your own words. Show you processed it. You didn't just parrot it.
Okay, paraphrasing. Most of us probably do that sometimes, or think we do. What's the magic third step?
The third step is the game changer. You explicitly ask for confirmation. You say something like, so if I'm hearing you right, the main thing you're concerned about is X. Is that correct?
Mm.
Or am I understanding that properly? You actively invite them to correct you.
Ah, okay. You
Well,
give them the power to confirm or deny your understanding. What does that actually do?
it does something amazing. Getting that, yes, that's right, confirmation. It makes the other person dramatically more likely. Studies show anywhere from 10% to a whopping 80% more likely to actually listen to you when it's your turn. It completely disarms them.
Yeah.
And critically, it lets you navigate really tough topics, politics, religion, whatever, without necessarily agreeing. You're showing, I understand your viewpoint, not I endorse your viewpoint. The goal shifts from winning to understanding. Mutual clarity.
Mutual clarity, not agreement. That's a
Yes.
huge distinction. Okay, we've got the biology, the mindsets, the core skills, but communication isn't happening in a vacuum, right? The rules change depending on how we're talking. Email, text, phone.
Oh, absolutely. The context is everything. Think back like 100 years ago. The telephone comes along, people freaked out. Experts literally argued you could never have a real conversation because you couldn't see the other person's face, their gestures. It took, what, 10, 15 years for society to kind of unconsciously develop the rules for phone calls? Like, you learn you have to put more emotion into your voice to make up for the missing visuals. We're basically still figuring out the rules for the internet now. Texting, email, Zoom. It's an ongoing process.
Which is why those simple heuristics are so useful, like the one for online stuff. Overemphasize politeness, underemphasize sarcasm. Because sarcasm just dies without tone of voice and facial cues.
Exactly. No tone, no context. Jokes fall flat, or worse, get misinterpreted. And speaking of context and nuance, the science also debunks some old myths, like the idea that men and women are inherently wired to communicate differently. Biologically, not really supported. What we see instead is habituation. We get used to certain styles, often based on social expectations. So sometimes you might see someone often, but not always, a man trying to talk about something emotional, but they use very practical sounding language because that's the mode they become accustomed to using for serious topics.
Right, that brings us back to your budget example, where the words sound practical, but the feeling is emotional. Walk us through that mismatch signal again.
Okay, so I might come home and say, look, we need to sit down and go over the budget, look at the numbers. Because honestly, I'm feeling really worried about saving for college. I'm anxious about it. See, I used budget, numbers, practical terms. But the real message is in worried, anxious, concerned. That's the emotional flag being waved, the super communicator response. Here's the emotion first. It says something like, okay, wow, I hear that you're worried. That sounds stressful. Let's talk about that feeling first. I want us both to feel secure about this. Then, after acknowledging the emotion, you can say, all right, let's pull up the spreadsheet and see where we actually stand. Validate first, then problem solve.
Validate first. Got it. Okay, one last area before we wrap up skills. What about groups? Meetings, team projects, you mentioned high centrality participants. What makes them so influential?
It's fascinating and often totally invisible. They have what some researchers call crypto influence. People in the group trust them, follow their lead, but often can't pinpoint exactly why. And the reason isn't that they're the loudest or have the best ideas necessarily or push their agenda hardest. Their power comes from listening and reflecting. They are masters of looping for understanding, but for the whole group. They'll say things like, okay, so it sounds like Sarah's concerned about the timeline. Well, Mike thinks we need more data. Am I getting the main points? Cool. They echo and synthesize what others are saying. By doing that, they make everyone feel heard, validated. They act like a catalyst, bringing the whole group into sync, into entrainment. They build consensus through connection, not just content.
Wow. So influence comes from making others feel understood. Okay, so wrapping this all together, the big message seems to be connection isn't magic. It's not a personality trait you either have or don't. It's a skill, something we can learn and get better at with practice.
Absolutely. It is a skill. And like any skill, there's a learning curve. It feels awkward at first. You have to consciously break old habits, interrupting mismatching mindsets, not really proving you listened. I love this story about the author Charles Duhigg, how his own wife would sometimes call him out at dinner saying, okay, that monologue, that violates rule number 3 in your own book. Even the experts are always practicing. But here's the challenge for everyone listening. It sounds small, but try it. Sometime today or tomorrow, ask just one deep question you wouldn't normally ask someone.
Just one question that opens that door to values, beliefs, experiences. An invitation.
Exactly. Just one. See what happens. You might be surprised how much people actually like being asked, how it changes the dynamic. It
Yeah.
feels good to be seen that way. And if you do it just a few times, it starts feeling less like a technique and more like, well, just how you talk. It becomes natural,
Yeah.
authentic.
Okay, so a clear challenge for you, the listener. But let's end with a final thought to chew on. If communication at its core is really about connection, and if getting into that state of connection, that neural entrainment, literally rewards our brains with dopamine, does deliberately working on these communication skills, trying to become a better connector, does that mean we're also fundamentally working on making ourselves happier, calmer, more biologically satisfied? Something to think about.